people talk about having smaller government. This is one way that you do it, is by taking it piece by piece and building a budget and building an operation that works well. Most of the people that have run for county executive didn't have very much executive experience, and I have to laugh at some people are saying they have this tremendous executive experience, and they don't. I mean, you may have worked on a piece of the budget for the county budget. Some of my opponents have done those kinds of things. But as a county board supervisor, I've had a chance to look at the whole thing for all these years, and you know, after a while you kind of get, you know, what areas could use a little more help and which areas, you know, we're just tearing up money. And you know, I always keep in mind, it's not my money, it belongs to you. And you know, we should be more careful spending other people's money than we do. Some people that I've seen, and especially those people who think that government can solve all problems, they really don't make that link to where that money came from. And if it could have been spent better by the person who earned the money in their pocket, you know, rather than just sending it over to the county. And so I think it's just this sort of general attitude about how we approach the budget and the kinds of things that at least I would take under consideration for improving just how it works.
What would you say are 3 top budget priorities for Dane County?
Yeah, well, one of them is we've got to stop the kind of trickery that has been going on. We shouldn't, I mean, we're a microcosm of what state government is. You know, we have segregated funds. We've tapped into the landfill fund to pay for operating expenses. We've borrowed money to pay for operating expenses. So, you know, and for each dollar that you borrow, you pay back $1.40. And so, you know, if you're borrowing for something that's $7,000, you're going to be a little over $10,000 by the time you're finished with it, especially depending on how long it's borrowed for. The county board rules, the county rules are that you shouldn't be borrowing for anything that's less than $50,000. But this county executive and a majority on the county board, their technique is to take all these $7,000, $5,000, bundle it into a $50,000 package, and then borrow for it. And so that's one of the things that really needs to be straightened out, like right away, is let's make sure that we borrow for real, honest-to-goodness capital expenses and use tax dollars for our operating expenses. It's going to be less expensive in the end to do that. So that whole area of budgeting is just tremendously important. So, I mean, I'd really focus on that to start.
Out of curiosity, public safety has been an issue again and again in county executive elections in Dane, and I'm wondering, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that there are not nearly enough sheriff's deputies to cover the county adequately, that sort of thing. In terms of prioritizing budget, where do you see that as falling?
Yeah, well, first of all, there was a sheriff's staffing study that was just completed, and I've said it in other places too. The study was just junk. It was terrible. It didn't reflect the reality of what was going on in Dane County. The study was, it used language from a study that was done in Tampa and applied it. I mean, it was terrible. Somebody cut and pasted it into, and that was supposed to be the report that we were supposed to make decisions on. There was one of the things that was particularly egregious was for detectives. They said that we should have, each detective could have 242 cases. That was an okay staffing ratio. Only to find out it should have been 24.2 cases per detective. And that was, to me, I mean, how could you believe anything else in the report? And it was never corrected. That was the thing. Yet, decisions made by our county board chairman, Scott McDonald, are based on this terribly flawed report. So there were problems with how rural areas are covered by the Sheriff's Department. There are very good, very effective partnerships between local municipalities outside of Madison and the Sheriff's Department for patrol. They overestimated the amount of money that the county should charge local municipalities for the sheriff's services, only to find out that they're already paying a premium. And the municipalities agreed to pay the premium. It was better for them to pay a premium to get those sheriff's services than having their own police department. So there were any number of these kinds of problems with this report, and you can't expect someone to make a good decision on such a flawed report. So I think we are staffed adequately for the Sheriff's Department now. I think that we need to do a little bit better budgeting around the Sheriff's Department. We do borrow for squad cars. The life of a squad car, it's what I'm told, is 2 years, but we're borrowing them. To buy them, we borrow for 5 years. So after a car goes down, and then the money that we get back for selling those cars is not used to reduce the debt. It goes into the general fund. And so we're still paying interest on a squad car and principal on a squad car that is no longer in service. Those are the kinds of things that we've tried. It's not just me. There's a coalition of supervisors who have said, enough with these games. Let's just be honest about this and do the right thing. Let's budget for these things properly so we're not overpaying for them forever. So with the Sheriff's Department, again, you know, we rely on the Sheriff's Department for public safety. We have to make sure that's the #1 purpose, function of government is public safety, and to use the Sheriff's Department as a political tool is, you know, it's not good. There are other things. There's a study that was done a few years ago that said we should just have people that were in the jail go out into the community. I have yet to get real, honest answers about how many of those people that are out on bracelets or other monitoring, how many times are they doing additional crimes? I mean, how often do they violate the terms of their probation and parole? And that is particularly serious for some neighborhoods in Madison. I'm told by the Madison Police Department that the jail is a revolving door. People that are known to be problems in the community are taken into custody and turned around and released again, only to commit additional crimes. And, you know, we got to do something about this. It is expensive to have people in jail, but it's more expensive to the people who are victims of crimes that shouldn't be victims of crimes, because the people shouldn't have been out of jail in the first place. So it may cost the county a few less dollars, but the cost to the community is tremendous. And it's, you know, being a victim of crime, I mean, there's sometimes no price that you can put on it because it can be very devastating.
I have this is a off-the-wall observation, but I was an EMT for Sun Prairie for 15 years.
Okay.
One of the things that would irk us no end is the fact the township, you know, butts up to the city. It's Marshall's ambulance district. On our street alone, we go down Claremore. One side of the road, if you get in an accident and happen to roll in a ditch on the west side, that's Maple Bluff.
Oh.
If you go onto the east side, that's town of Sun Prairie. And if you could crawl into the middle of the road, you get Sun Prairie City. Now, I believe that has been handled, but why isn't there more mutual aid across boundaries for police also?
You know, I can't answer that specifically, but I think it's that issue of what kind of mood do we have in this county? Is there anyone promoting these kind of intergovernmental cooperation kinds of things? I think that the first responder, there was a time where those boundaries were they were very strict and very discreet. And a few years ago, I think they put into effect whoever was closest responded.
Yeah, that was the ambulance.
Yeah.
And the fire trucks go in mutual aid also. But you're talking about the police, you know, common cops. Well, there's no reason that couldn't be more mutual. Rather than having this officer fly down Main Street at 50 miles an hour, scaring everybody in the area, when you've got a city cop not that far away.
Right. Again, you know, I just see that those are the kinds of things that when you're looking for cooperation, because whether it's the city or the county or someone else, if something happens here, they're going to come from elsewhere. If it happens there, the city's going to need to respond to it. And, you know, it would be very interesting to see who becomes the mayor of Madison next. And what kind of relationship could be developed between the county and the city. There's a lot more that could be done. As you can imagine, it's very political. But if you're really trying to find solutions to things, I think it can be done. And if you have the ability as the county executive to make it a more public discussion, that's something that I would do. I want people to know what is going on with their government. And I think once that spotlight hits, people become more cooperative. Because they will look bad if they're not willing to respond. And you know, we need a little bit more independence between the mayor's office and the county exec's office, but we also need a lot more cooperation between the two as well. And that's something I would hope that I could bring to the job, depending on whoever the mayor is.
I've heard different things about the contract that was signed with county employees. There seems to be some confusion even among people in county government about what the reality is. And I'm just curious if you could just describe that briefly and say what role the next county executive could have in controlling the cost of that contract.
Well, what happened was the deputy sheriffs, when they decided that they would take a pay cut it wasn't a pay cut, they were going to be furloughed. I think it was, there was an issue of they would continue on, they would not lose any positions, that's what it was. They would not lose any positions as long as they didn't, and they would not get a pay raise in the 2011 budget. But the deal was that on the last day of 2011, their pay would go up 3%. In the county union contracts, there's what they call a Me Too clause. If you get it, then I get it too. And so what happened was the rest of the unions didn't do anything, but they were just sitting because they had already taken their furloughs and all the rest of it. But they decided to exercise their Me Too rights. And so what that did was it gave a 3% pay increase to all county employees. And that adds up to $4.7 million. So now they did make some concessions about, I think it was medication payments, co-pays, and things like that. So that saved us about $800,000. So that they conceded not quite $1 million, somewhere in there. So that means that when we go into the 2012 budget, we know we have this additional liability of about $3.7 million, 4.7 minus $1 million. So we have that liability going in. People said it was a 4-year contract. The way when I talked to the Department of Administration, they said, well, no, it was a 1-year contract and a 3-year contract. The 1-year contract is for sure. It's going to cost us $3.7 million more in salaries. But the contracts that were signed for beyond that there was provisions that would allow the county or the employee unions to go to arbitration. So we don't know what will happen. We'll have to see what the economic situation looks like for 2013, and then decide whether the county wants to open up the contract to arbitration. Maybe the employees will want to open it up to arbitration. But the signing of that contract put us in a very bad situation. And if you add that to all of these other difficult situations we're in, like taking money from the landfill, that's one-time money. We're not going to see that again, and in fact, we probably should be paying it back. If you look at all of those deficits that have come along, it's going to be tough, and we're going to need a county executive who's going to be tough enough to make those decisions, and also to call on the unions to say, look, we can't do this, or you're going to lose jobs. I mean, you can have it one way or the other. You're either going to have to, because the county does need good employees, and we do have wonderful employees. There's a lot of talented people that work for the county. But we're not going to be able to keep people if we continue to increase pay 100% of pension benefits. I don't know if anybody in here, I mean, I don't have anybody that pays. I pay 100% of mine. There's no one else that pays it. We have to be able to say to their employees, look, war is not the answer. We're going to have to work together to get through a difficult situation, and we'll have to see what happens. I mean, this is going to be tough. But does that answer your question?
Well, so is the 2012 budget? So that's something the next county executive will be negotiating with the unions?
The budget is due on October 1st. So, say I'm elected on April the 5th. The first thing you do is start working on the next year's budget. And as I said, I'm less interested in all of the past budgets as I am for creating a zero-based budget. We start from scratch and build it up. And there are some significant costs that we're going to have to bear. And again, we squeeze out, we starve other programs when we're borrowing so much, or we're spending so much of the revenues that we take in towards, Cadillac plans for retirement and all of that. And there was a time when municipal employees were getting a bum rap, but that's not the case anymore. Municipal employees their salaries are competitive with market rate salaries, benefits are often much higher. So we've come to a different place, and we have to start looking at it anew. Yes?
I think I like what I'm hearing tonight. I'm sure others do too, and I'm just wondering, with the time that's left in the election, what can people do to be involved in your campaign to kind of help you get your ideas and get elected?
Well, it would be great to have people sign up to help in the campaign. We are raising funds so that we can do the kinds of mailings. We're doing lots of mailings, and the response has been terrific. If you want to stuff envelopes, we've got lots of stuffing envelopes to do, as Jack well knows. He's been our stalwart in that department, and really, that is truly the way we get the word out, is, you know, an envelope with a, you know, information about my candidacy and what we need. We need endorsements, and in fact, I'm going to ask all of you, if you are comfortable with my platform, if you would allow me to use your name publicly, because we're putting advertisements together, and so having you endorse me would be, it would be a real honor, and it will help me get elected. When other people see that other citizens feel that my candidacy is worth putting their name to. We need help putting up signs, all the usual stuff of a campaign. And of course, any financial contributions that you can offer to the campaign, I assure you we will use them carefully and honorably, and for a good cause. Those are the kinds of things, you know, most campaigns need. That's what I need too. And I would be very grateful for your help in any of those areas.
Any last questions?
Oh, and I'll just add one thing.
Sure.
The most important thing is your vote. I can't miss that. And you know, a lot of people don't vote. I have to admit, there was a time in my life that I was not a voter. I have mended my ways, and I'm very glad for it, because I think that is truly the best way to be a good citizen in this country, is to exercise your right to vote and let people know about the candidates that you think will serve the public well. So I ask for your vote on February 15th. It's coming soon.
Thank you so much for being with us this evening, Eileen.
It was a
Much
pleasure. Thank
appreciated.
you.